Hey guys, welcome to Boxing Squared for boxing news and views from around the internet. The WBC mandatory challenger Dominic Breazeale, he's talking it up large, saying he's going to have an easy night at the office when he takes on WBC kingpin Deontay Wilder. And the chances that the Californian will take on Wilder sooner rather than later have increased dramatically after a mega fight between the Alabama native and fellow champion Anthony Joshua fell through. And obviously we know the circumstances about that. That opens the way potentially for Breazeale to be next. And Breazeale, he's been in an interview with premier boxing champions. So what I'll do is I'll get to the best quotes and then a few thoughts. Buckle in. Let's go. The 32-year-old, he was asked what did he see from ringside in Wilder's victory over Gerald Washington. Sitting at ringside and watching what Gerald was able to do with Deontay for the first couple of rounds, I definitely knew at that point I could beat Deontay. I was literally champing at the bit. I thought maybe the first round was a flaw, but when round 2 came, Gerald was still doing it. I was thinking that when I get my opportunity against Deontay, it's going to be an easier day at the office than it was against Izu or Molina. Deontay is very awkward, which is crazy knowing that he's gotten so far being a former US Olympic bronze medalist in 40 professional fights and doesn't really have any fundamental skills. And Breazeale, he was asked, well, what did he mean by his comments? And he responded saying, you would think that he would be under more control when he's gotten somebody hurt, but he's almost like a street fighter in there. You get a lot of people making fun of the heavyweight champion of the world. You also have individuals who don't even know who he is. That's just because of the fact that his art is not as honed as it should be, if that makes sense. He was then asked how beneficial was fighting on 2 of Wilder's undercards, and what were his thoughts on the Ortiz stoppage. I've paid close attention to Deontay's last 3 fights, and I've seen a lot more weaknesses than I've seen strengths, particularly when he has someone hurt. When you smell blood, you're supposed to go in for the kill, but his fundamental skills aren't there, and he falls apart. With his big, wild, looping shots, Deontay is so unorthodox, it's not even funny. It's almost like a circus act. Strength-wise, we all know what he's got, a big right hand, but at the same time, I don't know if he's ever knocked anybody down or knocked anybody out who has been tested or has a chin. On how he sees himself matching up with Wilder, Deontay and I are about the same height, but I believe that what he weighed for Ortiz was at 214. You're 14 pounds from fighting at cruiserweight. So there is no way in hell you should be getting any respect from anybody who is above 230 pounds. I respect anybody who gets in the ring, but when you're talking about me, a 6'7", 250, or Anthony Joshua, 6'6", 254, those are 2 big, heavy-handed guys who get respect from the first time that they hit somebody in the first or second round. Deontay has shown me nothing that I go into the gym worrying about. It just seems like Deontay Wilder, time and time again, has been getting lucky to land that right hand because he's just been lucky to fight guys who haven't had their chins truly tested. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll jump in here with some thoughts. In many respects, it's a bit of a careful what you wish for situation here. Because while Deontay Wilder, he might look sloppy as anything at times, he's a proven finisher. He has that equalizer. If he lands that right hand, it can and will be the equalizer. Well, it has been thus far. And sure, we've seen guys like Washington and Ortiz outbox Wilder for long stretches. But when he did catch up with him eventually, they hit the deck and they got stopped soon after. So it's quite a statement for Breazeale to say it's going to be an easy day at the office, an easier day than it was against Izu Agono or Eric Molina. And then to throw in more insults, Breazeale says it's crazy that Wilder's got this far without any fundamental skills. I would actually contend that Wilder's defense in particular, it's actually far superior to Breazeale's. It may not be orthodox, but he is able to dodge shots at the last second, weave out of the way, use his quickness to great effect. Whereas you compare that to Dominic Breazeale, he's basically eating every single shot that's thrown. He's a sort of walking heavy bag. He's taking punishment to get his own work away. And sometimes when he's fought top opposition like Anthony Joshua, it just hasn't been effective. Even Amir Mansour was piecing him up before Mansour had to retire. He cut his tongue almost, he was eating and drinking blood. But when Breazeale says that he's seen more weaknesses than strength in Wilder's game, does that actually acknowledge that while Wilder's flaws can be gaping and obvious, his strengths have, until this point, been more than enough to actually offset those weaknesses? I mean, sure, the windmilling can be comical, but at the end of the day, he's got the job done. So for Breazeale to call it a circus act, if it is one indeed, then it's clearly a good one. And on the point that Wilder's opponents, have they ever had their chins tested? I guess the jury is actually out a little bit on that, but I would say Luis Ortiz, he was regarded as having a decent chin, and so too Johann Duhaupas. And we actually just saw Duhaupas recently survive getting battered in the final 6 rounds against Jarrell Miller. And on the weight difference, so there's about 40 pounds between them if you go off their last fight weights respectively. It's actually, in my view, a bit of a moot point. Does it really matter? I mean, Luis Ortiz, for example, was 242 pounds. And Wilder had few issues getting Ortiz's respect with his power. And then later in the fight, he was pushing him about the ring a bit too. So when Breazeale says Deontay Wilder has shown him nothing that worries him, it does make me wonder how hard he's actually really been watching him. And also, watching and doing are two different things. Getting in the ring, often fighters will say, well, actually, I didn't realise how quick someone was, or, so on and so forth. And of course, I'm sure there's going to be a decent dose of bluster and false bravado in these statements. But for Breazeale to be so dismissive, it's a little surprising and also funny at the same time. And given Breazeale is very hittable, I'm favouring Wilder to knock him out, and potentially inside the first 6 rounds or so. But I guess the question is, can he do it faster than Anthony Joshua, who I believe he stopped Breazeale in 7? And I'm sure that if Wilder does fight Breazeale, it will be on Wilder's mind when they eventually meet. He wants to look better than the Joshua performance. But whatever happens, I actually think Wilder will beat Breazeale. But it does appear that Breazeale is getting ready for the shot. He's preparing now. He's saying he's been treating his situation as if the phone is going to ring at any moment, on any day, and he's going to be fighting this weekend. So he's continued to stay on his P's and Q's, as he puts it. He also says he's been working on right-hand power, a good jab, balance, and good general fundamental technical skills, and other things like that. And on top of that, he's also been sparring with light heavyweights and cruiserweights to work on speed and defense. But I guess the question is, will it be enough to beat Deontay Wilder? Can Dominic Breazeale score an upset? Can he shock the world? Can he land a clean right hand on Deontay Wilder's chin and knock him spark out? I'm sure there's going to be plenty of people who'd like to see that happen, and stranger things have happened. But at this stage, I don't see it happening, and he is the firm underdog in any fight between the two. What do you make of it all? Do you believe Dominic Breazeale does stand a chance? What do you make of his comments that he says Deontay Wilder is easy work and he's been knocking over guys that don't have any chin? Drop a comment, loud and often, hit like, hit subscribe, follow me on Twitter, boxing_squared. I'm out.
What's up, y'all, man? It's happy Friday. Everybody want to know what's up, man. Got this new fight coming up. Waiting for a confirmed date. Y'all know I want Wilder, man. As soon as I get my hands on him, you'll be the first to know. Get it.
That body. Coming for you, Wilder.
Coming. You better be training, because trouble's coming.